The evening sun cast long shadows through the windows of Joe's footwear as Tom Martinez stood at the entrance, his hand resting gently on his daughter Sophia's shoulder. The small bell above the door chimed as they stepped inside, the familiar scent of new leather and rubber soles filling the air. Tom's weathered face showed the signs of countless sleepless nights and double shifts, but his eyes held a warmth that never dimmed, especially when looking at his little girl. "Ready to find your perfect pair?" he asked, managing a smile despite the weight of his nearly empty wallet in his back pocket. Sophia nodded eagerly, her worn-out sneakers scuffing against the clean tile floor. The holes in their sides had been carefully stitched up 3 times already, but even Tom's best attempts at repairs couldn't hide the fact that they were falling apart. Life hadn't been kind to the Martinez family lately. After losing his wife Anna to cancer last year, Tom had been juggling 2 jobs, working as a morning shift janitor at the local high school and evening security guard at a nearby warehouse. Every spare dollar went into a careful budget: rent, utilities, groceries, and a small savings account he hoped would someday help Sophia go to college. But today was different. Today was for Sophia. Sophia had inherited her mother's grace and passion for dance. Despite their tight budget, Tom had managed to keep her in dance classes at the community center, where her teacher often praised her natural talent. The upcoming winter showcase would be her first major performance since losing her mom, and Tom was determined to make it special. As they walked through the aisles, Tom couldn't help but notice how Sophia tried to hide her excitement, keeping her eyes on the less expensive options. She'd grown up too fast this past year, shouldering burdens no 12-year-old should have to carry. She helped with the housework without being asked, never complained about having sandwiches for dinner 3 nights in a row, and even offered to quit dance class when she overheard Tom talking about bills with her Aunt Rosa. "Look at whatever you want, sweetheart," Tom encouraged, squeezing her shoulder gently. "It's your special day." He had been saving for 3 months, picking up extra weekend shifts whenever he could. The envelope in his jacket pocket held $85, not a fortune, but enough to buy something decent. He'd skipped his morning coffee and brought packed lunches to work, counted every penny, and even sold his old guitar. Seeing Sophia dance in proper shoes would be worth every sacrifice. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead as they made their way toward the dance shoe section. Tom noticed how Sophia's steps got lighter, her eyes widening as they passed rows of beautiful performance shoes. A young sales assistant named Jenny approached them with a friendly smile, and Tom felt grateful for her genuine warmth. There was no trace of judgment in her eyes when she saw their worn clothes and Sophia's patched shoes. "Can I help you find anything specific today?" Jenny asked, kneeling down to Sophia's level. Sophia glanced up at her dad, seeking permission before speaking. Tom nodded encouragingly. "I need shoes for my dance performance," Sophia said softly, her voice carrying the same gentle tone as her mother's. Something not too expensive," she added quickly, making Tom's heart ache with a mixture of pride and sadness. As Jenny led them toward a display of dance shoes, Tom silently calculated and recalculated his budget. He knew the price range they should be looking at, but seeing Sophia's eyes light up at each new pair made him wish he could give her the world. The memory of Anna's voice echoed in his mind. "Our girl was born to dance, Tom. Promise me you'll keep her dancing." The evening sun continued its descent, painting the store in soft orange hues. Other customers came and went, but for Tom and Sophia, time seemed to slow down in their own little bubble of hope and possibility. Neither of them knew that in just a few minutes, their lives would change in ways they couldn't imagine, all because a certain famous actor was about to walk through that same door. Jenny led them to a wall lined with dance shoes, each pair seemingly more beautiful than the last. Sophia's steps slowed as they approached, her eyes wide with wonder. There, displayed on the 3rd shelf, sat a pair of black ballet flats that seemed to catch every bit of the evening light. They were simple but elegant, with a delicate bow detail that reminded Tom of the way Anna used to tie ribbons in Sophia's hair for school. Can I try those on?" Sophia whispered, pointing to the black flats. Her voice held that familiar mix of hope and hesitation that had become so common since her mom passed. Tom reached for the price tag, trying to keep his expression neutral as he saw the numbers. $129.99. His heart sank. It was almost $50 more than he had saved. Jenny, noticing the subtle change in Tom's expression, smoothly suggested, "We have several lovely options I can show you. Would you like to try a few different pairs?" She reached for the black flats, but also pulled down 2 other pairs from nearby shelves, giving Sophia choices while tactfully including some more affordable options. Sophia sat on the small bench, carefully untying her old sneakers. Tom noticed how she folded the loose laces with extra care, a habit she developed to make things last longer. The holes in her socks made his throat tight, but Sophia didn't seem embarrassed. She held her head high, just like her mother always had, even during the hardest times. When Jenny slipped the black flats onto Sophia's feet, the transformation was immediate. Sophia's whole face lit up, and for a moment, she looked exactly like Anna. She stood carefully, testing her weight, and took a few experimental steps. The shoes fit perfectly, hugging her feet like they were made just for her. "They feel like clouds," Sophia breathed, doing a small twirl. The evening sunlight caught the subtle sheen of the shoes, making them glow, like dancing on clouds. She looked at herself in the mirror, stretching up on her toes, and for the first time in months, Tom saw his little girl completely lost in joy. Tom watched as Sophia moved gracefully in front of the mirror, her movements reminding him of autumn leaves dancing in the wind. He thought about the extra shifts he could pick up at the warehouse, maybe sell his watch. The one Anna had given him on their first anniversary. It wasn't being used much anyway, and Sophia's happiness was worth more than any timepiece. "Would you like to try the others?" Jenny asked gently, holding up a simpler pair in dark blue that Tom had noticed was priced at $79.99. Sophia nodded, ever practical, but Tom saw how her eyes kept drifting back to the black flats in the mirror. As Sophia tried on the other shoes, Tom pulled out his phone, checking his bank account one more time. The numbers hadn't changed. They never did when he wished they would. He had exactly $212.37 in his checking account, with the rent due next week. The $85 in his pocket was already stretching their budget thin. "The blue ones are nice too," Sophia said, but her voice had lost that spark of excitement. She was doing it again, trying to make things easier for him, just like she did at the grocery store when she'd say she wasn't really hungry for the cereal she used to love, or how she insisted her old backpack was still perfectly fine, even though the zipper was broken. Tom knelt down beside her, adjusting the strap on the blue shoes. "How do they feel for dancing?" he asked, trying to focus on practicality. Sophia did a small ballet move, one that always made Anna clap and cheer during their living room performances. "They're good," Sophia said, but her eyes drifted to where Jenny was carefully placing the black flats back in their box. The same look she had when they packed away Anna's dancing shoes months ago. Tom stood up, reaching for his wallet. He had made his decision. Sometimes being a parent meant making sacrifices, and seeing that spark of joy in his daughter's eyes was worth every penny. He would figure out the rent somehow. Maybe his brother could loan him some money, or he could. The store's bell chimed again, and a cool evening breeze swept through the aisles. Tom barely registered the tall figure who walked in, his mind still racing through financial calculations. But then he heard Sophia's small gasp, and the atmosphere in the store shifted like a change in the weather. Neither of them could have known that this moment would change everything. The evening light filtering through the store windows caught dust motes in the air, creating a soft, almost magical atmosphere as the tall figure stepped inside. He wore simple clothes, a well-worn black jacket, jeans, and a baseball cap pulled low over his eyes. Nothing about him screamed movie star, but there was something undeniably magnetic about his presence. Sophia's hand tightened around her father's arm. "Dad," she whispered, her voice trembling with excitement. That's him." Tom looked up from the blue shoes he'd been examining, following his daughter's gaze. The man was standing quietly near the entrance, giving a gentle smile to the starstruck teenage cashier who had nearly dropped the shoes she was arranging. Jenny, the sales assistant helping them, straightened up suddenly, recognition flooding her face. The store felt different somehow, as if the air itself had changed. But what struck Tom most wasn't the presence of a celebrity. It was how normal and unassuming Keanu Reeves appeared, quietly browsing the men's section as if he were any other customer. Sophia stood very still, the blue shoes forgotten. Tom watched as his daughter's eyes grew wide with wonder, not just because she recognized the actor from The Matrix and John Wick, movies she wasn't supposed to have seen but had caught glimpses of at her cousin's house, but because she knew his other story. The story Tom had told her one night when she was missing her mom terribly. "Remember what I told you about him?" Tom whispered to Sophia, who nodded slowly. They had talked about Keanu's own history of loss, how he dealt with grief and still chose kindness, how he was known for his generous spirit rather than his fame. These conversations had helped Sophia process her own grief, finding comfort in knowing that even famous people went through similar struggles. Other customers began to notice, creating that peculiar energy that comes with recognizing someone famous but trying to act normal. A young boy tugged at his mother's sleeve, pointing excitedly. An elderly couple whispered to each other, smiling. But everyone maintained a respectful distance, following the unspoken rule of their small town, treating people like people, famous or not. Tom turned back to the task at hand, trying to focus on the shoes and their budget. He didn't want to bother anyone, celebrity or otherwise. That's when he noticed Sophia wasn't looking at Keanu anymore. Her eyes had drifted back to the black flats sitting in their box on the shelf, and there was something in her expression that reminded him so much of Anna, it made his chest ache. "She would have loved those shoes," Tom said softly, more to himself than to Sophia. His daughter looked up at him, understanding immediately that he was talking about her mother. They shared a moment of quiet connection, the kind that had become their own special language since Anna's passing. What they didn't notice was that Keanu had moved closer to their aisle, seemingly browsing the nearby shelves. He was close enough now to overhear their conversation, to see the worn shoes Sophia had taken off, to notice how carefully Tom was checking price tags while his daughter tried to hide her longing for the prettier, more expensive pair. Jenny returned with another option. A pair of simple black flats priced at $69.99. They were plain but functional, nowhere near as beautiful as the pair Sophia had fallen in love with, but much closer to their budget. Tom watched as his daughter tried them on, her movements less enthusiastic but still graceful. She was trying so hard to be grown up about it all, to hide her disappointment. "These are nice," Sophia said, attempting a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. She did a small turn, then another, trying to convince herself as much as her father. "They're really nice, Dad. And look, they're perfect for dancing too." She demonstrated a basic ballet move, one that would have looked elegant in any shoes, but somehow seemed diminished in these plain ones. Tom felt a presence behind him and turned slightly, finding himself almost face to face with Keanu Reeves. The actor had moved closer, still maintaining a polite distance, but close enough that Tom could see the genuine interest in his eyes as he watched Sophia practice her dance steps. There was something in his expression, not pity, but understanding, that made Tom stand a little straighter despite the weight of his empty wallet. The moment hung there, suspended in the golden evening light, as Sophia continued her small dance, unaware of their observer. None of them knew yet that this chance encounter was about to transform into something extraordinary. From his quiet spot near the running shoes, Keanu watched the scene unfold before him with the kind of attention he usually reserved for studying a new script. But this wasn't a movie. This was real life playing out in its purest form, and something about it touched a familiar chord in his heart. The father's gentle patience, the daughter's brave attempts to hide her disappointment, it all felt deeply personal. Sophia continued trying on different shoes, each pair a little less special than the black flats she'd first fallen in love with. Tom kept checking price tags, his expression growing more strained with each one. Keanu noticed how the man's shoulders tensed slightly each time he looked at a price, how he would unconsciously touch the wallet in his back pocket, as if hoping more money might have magically appeared. "Maybe we could look at the clearance section," Tom suggested softly to Jenny, who nodded sympathetically. Sophia's face remained brave, but her shoulders drooped just slightly, a gesture that reminded Keanu of his own childhood, of times when his mother had to make similar difficult choices. As they moved toward the clearance section, Keanu heard Sophia ask in a whisper, "Dad, could we maybe save up for the black ones? I could do extra chores and maybe not get any birthday presents this year." The words hit him hard, bringing back memories of his own family's struggles, of his mother working multiple jobs to keep food on the table. Tom knelt down beside his daughter, and Keanu pretended to be very interested in a display of shoelaces while listening to their conversation. "Sweetheart," Tom said, his voice thick with emotion, "you already do so much. The way you help around the house, how you never complain about having leftovers, how you've been so strong since Mom." His voice cracked slightly. Sophia hugged her father right there in the middle of the store, not caring who saw. "It's okay, Dad, really. These ones are fine." She pointed to a pair of basic dance shoes in the clearance section, marked down to $45. "They're actually really comfortable." The lie was gentle, spoken with love, making it all the more heartbreaking. Keanu watched as Tom tried to smile, saw how he blinked rapidly to hold back tears. The man reminded him of his own mother, proud, hardworking, willing to sacrifice everything for their children. He thought about all the times someone had shown kindness to his family during their difficult years, how those moments of generosity had shaped his own view of the world. The store was quieter now, most other customers having left as closing time approached. The evening sun had almost set, casting long shadows across the aisles. Jenny was still helping them, her patience and kindness evident in every interaction. She brought over several more pairs from the clearance section, trying her best to find something that might work for both their budget and Sophia's needs. Sophia tried on each pair dutifully, but her eyes kept drifting back to where the black flats sat in their box on the shelf. Keanu noticed how she would glance at them when she thought no one was looking, the way someone might look at a star they wished upon, but knew was out of reach. Tom pulled out the envelope from his jacket pocket, counting the money again, even though he clearly knew exactly how much was there. Keanu saw his hands trembling slightly as he thumbed through the worn bills. The man's dignity in the face of such a difficult moment struck a deep chord. There was no self-pity, just quiet determination to do the best he could for his daughter. Jenny returned with one final option: a pair of simple black shoes that were functional but lacking any of the grace or style of the ones Sophia had first tried on. "These just came into the clearance section this morning," she explained kindly. "They're marked down to $52.99. Tom's relief was visible. This was something they could actually afford. But as Sophia slipped them on, Keanu caught the briefest flicker of disappointment cross her face before she quickly masked it with a bright smile. "These are perfect," she said, standing up and doing a little twirl that didn't have quite the same joy as her earlier ones. The moment of decision had arrived. Tom was reaching for his wallet, ready to make the purchase that would keep them within budget but fall short of the dream. Keanu felt the weight of his own wallet in his pocket, thinking about how many pairs of shoes he had bought without a second thought during his career. Something needed to be done, but it had to be handled with the same dignity and grace this family had shown throughout their difficult situation. As Tom and Sophia made their way to the register with the clearance shoes, Keanu quietly approached Jenny. His voice was soft, meant only for her ears, as he gestured toward the black flats that Sophia had first tried on. The sales assistant's eyes widened slightly as she understood his intention, but she matched his discretion with a subtle nod. "Sir," Jenny called out to Tom, who was already placing the clearance shoes on the counter, "would you mind if I show you one more option? I just remembered something that might work better for dance." Tom hesitated, clearly torn between politeness and the need to stay within his budget. Sophia stood close to her father, one hand holding onto his jacket sleeve, a habit she developed since losing her mom, as if afraid of losing him too. The store's fluorescent lights had fully taken over from the faded evening sun, casting a gentle glow over the scene. Keanu moved to another aisle, pretending to examine running shoes while keeping the counter in view. He watched as Jenny brought out not only the beautiful black flats Sophia had first loved, but also a sturdy pair of practice shoes. "We actually have a special promotion today," Jenny explained smoothly, making eye contact with Tom. "When you buy any performance shoes, you get a practice pair at no additional cost." Tom's forehead creased with confusion. "I don't remember seeing any signs about a promotion," he said carefully, his pride evident in his straightened shoulders. Jenny didn't miss a beat. "It's a new corporate policy we're testing. Selected customers, for dance students." Sophia's eyes lit up with hope, but she stayed quiet, watching her father's face. Tom's hand went to his wallet again, his expression a mixture of doubt and longing to make his daughter happy. "That's very kind, but I'm afraid even with a promotion, these might be out of our range today." That's when Keanu stepped forward, no longer able to stay in the background. He approached with the same gentle presence he'd shown throughout his time in the store. "Excuse me," he said, his voice warm but not imposing. "I couldn't help overhearing about the dance performance." Sophia's grip on her father's sleeve tightened, her eyes wide with recognition. Tom turned, surprise evident on his face as he realized who was speaking to them. But before he could say anything, Keanu continued, "I was wondering if I could share something with you both." He pulled out his phone and showed them a photo, an old, slightly faded picture of a young boy and his mother standing in front of a dance studio. "This is me and my mom," he explained, his voice soft with memory. "We didn't have much when I was growing up, but she always found a way to keep me in acting classes. Someone helped us once, in a moment like this. They didn't make a big deal about it, they just showed kindness." Tom started to protest, understanding where this was going, but Keanu held up a hand gently. "Please," he said, "let me pass on the kindness that was once shown to me. Not as a celebrity, but as someone who knows what it means to have a parent who would give everything to support their child's dreams." The moment hung in the air, heavy with emotion. Sophia looked between her father and Keanu, hardly daring to breathe. Tom stood very still, and in his face you could see the battle between pride and the desire to give his daughter this moment of joy. "I know what it's like," Keanu continued, his voice even softer now, meant just for Tom's ears. "To lose someone you love. To want to keep their dreams alive in your children." The words hit home. They weren't about charity or pity, but about understanding, about honoring the memory of Sophia's mom and her love for dance. Jenny stood quietly at the register, pretending to organize receipts while giving them space for this moment. The store was empty now except for them, the world outside growing darker as night settled in. In this quiet space, something beautiful was unfolding, not a story about a famous actor buying shoes, but about human beings connecting over shared experiences of loss, love, and the desire to keep hope alive. The store had grown quiet, with only the soft hum of fluorescent lights overhead. Tom stood still, his eyes glistening with unshed tears as he looked at the old photograph on Keanu's phone. The image of a young boy and his struggling mother seemed to break down the last walls of his resistance. This wasn't about charity. It was about understanding, about shared experiences that crossed all boundaries of fame and fortune. "Your mom," Tom said softly, his voice slightly rough with emotion. "She sounds like she was an amazing woman." Keanu nodded, slipping his phone back into his pocket. "She worked 3 jobs sometimes," he shared, his voice carrying the weight of memory. "But she never let me see how tired she was. She just kept encouraging me to follow my dreams." Sophia listened intently, still holding onto her father's sleeve, but standing a little straighter now. She recognized something in Keanu's words, the same spirit she saw in her own father every day, working double shifts, coming home exhausted but still finding energy to help with her homework or watch her practice dance moves. "Your daughter reminds me of myself at that age," Keanu continued, speaking directly to Tom. "That love for performing, that spark when she tried on those shoes." He gestured toward the black flats that still sat on the counter. "It's not about the shoes, really. It's about believing in yourself, knowing someone believes in you." Tom swallowed hard, looking down at his daughter. Sophia looked back up at him with Anna's eyes, full of hope and understanding beyond her years. "Dad," she said quietly, "remember what Mom always said about angels? How they sometimes show up in unexpected ways." The memory hit Tom hard. Anna had always talked about angels walking among them, ordinary people who showed extraordinary kindness. She would tell Sophia stories about random acts of kindness she'd witnessed or experienced, teaching their daughter that goodness could appear anywhere, at any time. Keanu stepped back slightly, giving them space for this intimate moment. Jenny busied herself with the shoeboxes, pretending not to notice the tears in her own eyes. The simple beauty of this connection between father and daughter, sparked by an unexpected act of kindness, touched everyone in the room. "Would you share something about her?" Keanu asked gently. "About Sophia's mom?" The question opened a door that Tom had kept carefully guarded. But here, in this quiet shoe store with this unexpectedly down-to-earth movie star, it felt right to let some memories out. She was a dancer, Tom said, his voice growing stronger as he spoke about Anna. Not professionally, she taught kindergarten during the day. But she danced like her soul was made of music. She used to say that dancing wasn't about being the best, it was about being the most alive you could be. Sophia's eyes lit up at these words about her mother. She used to dance with me in the kitchen, she added, her voice small but clear. She said every day should have at least one dance in it, even if it's just a tiny one. Keanu smiled, a genuine warm smile that had nothing to do with movies or fame. That's beautiful, he said. And you're keeping that spirit alive every time you dance. He turned to Tom again. Let me help you keep her dance alive, not as a handout, but as one parent's legacy honoring another's. The way he put it, not about money or charity, but about honoring Anna's memory and her love for dance, finally broke through Tom's last hesitation. Looking at his daughter's hopeful face, he remembered how Anna would have wanted Sophia to have this moment, this chance to feel special and supported in her passion. Okay, Tom said finally, his voice barely above a whisper. Then stronger, okay. Thank you. The words were simple, but they carried the weight of acceptance, of allowing someone else to help shoulder their burden for a moment. Jenny, sensing the right moment had come, began preparing both pairs of shoes for Sophia, the beautiful black flats for performances and the practice shoes for daily use. As she worked, the atmosphere in the store shifted from emotional tension to something lighter, warmer. Keanu shared a few more stories about his own mother, about the sacrifices she made and the dreams she encouraged. These weren't celebrity stories, they were human stories about struggle and love and the simple dignity of parents doing their best for their children. In these moments, the famous actor disappeared, replaced by someone who simply understood what it meant to be part of a family fighting to keep their dreams alive. As Jenny finished wrapping the shoes in tissue paper, the store's closing time had long passed. The night had settled outside the windows, but inside, time seemed to move at its own gentle pace. Sophia held both boxes close to her chest, treating them like precious treasures. But it wasn't just about the shoes anymore. Something more valuable had been created in that small shoe store. Before you go, Keanu said, reaching into his pocket and pulling out a small notepad, I'd love to know when your dance performance is. He looked at Sophia with genuine interest. The young girl's eyes widened with surprise, but before she could answer, he added with a warm smile, I'm in town filming for the next few weeks. If it's okay with your dad, I'd like to come see you dance. Tom watched his daughter's face light up with joy, remembering how Anna used to say that happiness shared is happiness multiplied. It's next Saturday, Sophia said, looking up at her father for permission to share the information. At the community center. As Keanu wrote down the details, he shared something unexpected. You know, I still get nervous before performances, he admitted, making Sophia giggle. But my mom taught me a trick. Want to know what it is? Sophia nodded eagerly. She told me to imagine that everyone in the audience was there just to share in my joy of performing, not to judge. Because when you dance from your heart, that's exactly what happens. The wisdom of those words settled over them all. Tom thought about how Anna had said similar things to Sophia during her first dance recital, when stage fright had almost kept her from performing. Some truths, it seemed, were universal, whether you were a famous actor or a young girl in her first dance show. As they prepared to leave, Keanu insisted on taking a picture, not for social media or publicity, but for Sophia to have something to remember this evening by. Jenny offered to take it with Tom's phone, father and daughter standing with their unexpected friend, all three smiling genuine smiles that reached their eyes. Remember, Keanu said as they walked toward the door, your mom's spirit is going to be right there with you when you dance. These shoes, he gestured to the boxes Sophia still hugged close, they're just a tool. The real magic is already inside you. The night air was cool and fresh as they stepped outside. Tom turned to thank Keanu one last time, but the words that came out surprised him. Would you like to join us for coffee sometime? Just as people? The invitation was spontaneous, born from the genuine connection that had formed over the past hour. Keanu's face softened with appreciation. I'd like that, he said simply. They exchanged phone numbers, not as a celebrity and a fan, but as two people who understood loss, love, and the importance of keeping dreams alive. The story could have ended there, but it didn't. The following Saturday, true to his word, Keanu slipped quietly into the back row of the community center. He watched as Sophia, wearing her new black flats, danced with all her heart. Her performance wasn't perfect. She stumbled once, but caught herself with a smile that lit up the room. In that moment, she was dancing just like her mother had in their kitchen, with pure joy. The impact of that evening in the shoe store rippled outward in unexpected ways. Tom used the money he'd saved for the shoes to start a small fund for Sophia's future dance lessons. More importantly, he began sharing their story, not about meeting a famous actor, but about how kindness can appear in unexpected places. Sophia kept dancing, each step stronger than the last. The black flats eventually wore out, but by then they had served their purpose. They weren't just shoes. They were a reminder that magic exists in the world, not in grand gestures, but in moments of genuine human connection. Years later, when Sophia opened her own small dance studio, she created a special fund for young dancers whose families were struggling. She called it the Angel Fund, remembering her mother's words about angels walking among us. In the studio's hallway hung a simple framed photo, 3 smiling people in a shoe store, caught in a moment of pure, unexpected joy. And somewhere in Hollywood, a well-worn photograph found a home on Keanu's desk, not because it was a memento of his own kindness, but because it reminded him of his mother, of all the people who helped dreams stay alive, and of how the simplest acts of understanding can create ripples of hope that touch countless lives.